Okay, we're going to take a look at Watergate, one of the more interesting, and a lot of times people don't know what it is. They heard about it, they saw it in Forrest Gump. Um, so we're going to take a look. Let me just adjust there, right there. Okay, that looks good. Okay, let's take a look. What happened? Watergate. All right, so we had the 72 elections. So 68, Johnson doesn't win, Nixon wins, and then in 72, Nixon runs again. And you can see he does pretty well. All right, gets everything but Massachusetts and D.C. Okay, and one elector in Kentucky, but we won't talk about that. Does pretty well. Okay, you think he's a pretty popular president. Well, we're going to see that only in 2 years we're going to go from getting 96% of the electoral vote to getting to quitting. I mean, he becomes the first president to actually quit the presidency. Okay. So there it is again, extra large. All right. So Watergate. What is Watergate? Okay. So Watergate in itself is this hotel complex. All right. It's offices. They have a hotel. They have apartments. Okay. They have a shopping mall, grocery store. You can see. So a lot of times people just say Watergate. Watergate itself is this complex, but then the Watergate scandal is what we're going to look at. It's all revolving around what happens in this hotel office complex. Okay, so here's some key people. Attorney General, who's going to cover up a lot of stuff. One of the plumbers, which are going to be part of Nixon's team to cover up leaks. Okay, like a plumber. All right, Mark Felt, who is going to be working for the FBI. That he's going to kind of tell the story to these guys from the Washington Post, Woodward and Bernstein. So there's kind of a lot of people. We're not going to worry too much about all the details, but just so if you ever hear some of these names and whatnot, you kind of know who the heck it's talking about. Okay, so what happened? All right, so the hotel itself was headquarters of the Democratic Party. All right, so Nixon is a Republican. The Democrats have their office set up in the Watergate Hotel. Okay, now some thieves bust into the hotel. Okay, and they're trying to get information. They're putting wiretaps in certain rooms, in certain meeting rooms, offices, and they're trying to get information about the guy that Nixon is running against, the guy that he whooped in 1972. Okay, now what happens is that a bystander sees what's going on. He calls the cops. What happens is a janitor was doing his nightly duty, and he saw, the lock, and there was a piece of tape on it, on one of the doors. Whatever, doing his nightly shift, pulls a piece of tape, doesn't think anything of it, shuts the door. Okay, comes back around about a half hour later, and there's tape on it. So obviously he knows someone else in the building. Okay, calls the police. Thieves get busted. As far as breaking in and putting illegal wiretapping. Okay, so that's kind of what starts it. All right. Turns out these guys, here's one of their bugging equipment, which I don't know how that works. Like, here, talk into my chapstick that has a 10-foot cord that is plugged into the tape recorder. Not really sure how that works, but it's wiretap evidence. All 5 of the men worked for this committee known as CREEP. All right, the Committee to Re-elect the President. They all worked secretly for this this committee. Okay, so Nixon's going to be in a little bit of trouble. So what happens? Here's Bernstein and Woodward. Okay, they discover, because Mark Felt in the FBI gives some information, tells them what was going on, that the burglars worked for Nixon. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So they start to do a Senate committee hearing, start to see what's going on. Did Nixon know about it? Did Nixon authorize it? Okay. The whole time Nixon is just lying through his teeth, saying, I'm not a crook. I didn't do this. I don't know anything about it. Now, what happens is one of these main lawyers confesses. Okay. Says, yep, we knew about it, we orchestrated it, we covered it up, we paid these people, and kind of just blows the roof on this whole thing. All right. Now, excuse me. We stuck here? Okay. Now, as they are uncovering more stuff, it finds out, Nixon's denying all this, and then it comes out through investigations that not only was Nixon involved in this, he wiretapped his office. So he was recording all conversations that were going on in his office. All the phone conversations without letting people know, which is a no-no. Okay, the Senate orders that he turns over the tapes. He says, "Nuh-uh, I have executive privilege. I'm the president. I get to do things that a normal person doesn't do." Okay, it ends up going to the Supreme Court, and Nixon ends up having to give over his tapes. Okay, now he's going to be, as far as these crimes. Okay. Now, there's kind of a lot of things on here, okay? Obstruction of justice means he's not open with what the Justice Department is asking of him, okay? Abuse of power. He has this big enemies list. That he made this list of all the people that have wronged him that he has to get back. He's using the IRS, which is kind of, if you're paying attention to current events, this stuff's going on, targeting certain groups, that are against him to really bust their chops, make them fill out a lot of tax stuff, really get the IRS on them, wiretapping, illegal campaign contributions from all sorts of different, illegal funds, the tapes, there's things that are deleted off the tapes, a lot of swear words deleted, does a lot of just downright dishonest, sleazy stuff, okay? Now, here's the charges, okay? As far as, so he's going to be they're going to bring these charges, and they're not going to get to vote on him because he's going to quit. I just talked about this. Abuse of power, contempt means he's not cooperating with Congress. The secret bombing in Cambodia, which we just got done looking at Nixon's secret war in Vietnam, using the IRS, to tax and to really hound certain people. Okay, and Nixon has all these charges against him, and he would have been found guilty. He just goes up and quits. First president ever. All right. I mean, kids are like, president can quit? Yeah, it's a job. He can quit, and he did quit. Okay. Now, he quits, and his vice president, Gerald Ford, becomes president. And we'll talk about this in our next one. But he's gonna pardon him. Says all those crimes that you got against him, they're off the books. Okay. He's not going to be tried for those. Okay. You can see him here leaving the White House, grand ceremony. Okay, leaving really in a state of disgrace. I mean, now lasting influences. They're going to start to reform how money can be contributed to campaigns. Okay, they'll start to change the rules. So you can't be as secretive. Okay. The American Bar Association, which is what is kind of the head of all the lawyers, makes new courses that you have to take about professional responsibility, what you can do, what you can't do, what you ethically need to do. All right. This is the big one. Okay, this is the big one. You're going to want to write this down. Okay, this cynicism, this skepticism. People don't trust the government. I mean, today you talk to people about the government. A lot of times people are really, I don't know, he works for the government, he's probably lying. This time, the late 60s, early 70s, Vietnam War, Watergate, really makes this long-lasting, people just don't trust the government, okay? So this is kind of the long-range, big, lasting influence. First president to quit, okay? Ford, which we'll talk about in our next set, becomes the first unelected president ever. Wasn't elected as vice president, wasn't elected as president, and I'll explain that later. Okay, so this is, and we'll talk about the bargain with Nixon later, because he gives him a pardon, which means he doesn't get in trouble for any of his crimes. And the truth, that a lot of the truth never comes out because it starts to be classified. Some of the stuff on the tapes isn't there; it's deleted. And really, again, you can't trust the government. They're not telling the truth. We looked at the credibility gap, all in the same time period. Okay. Now, again, so Watergate it's the complex itself, but it's this whole wiretapping, lying, and secret and cover up that ultimately is going to be the downfall of Richard Nixon.